I think it'd be great if you sung a song all by yourself. How about it, folks? Yeah?
The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour challenged everything television tried to keep quiet. Jokes were censored, guests banned, and one segment was so controversial it never aired, before it all ended in a lawsuit, a blacklist, and a silent shutdown. These are 10 shocking truths CBS didn't want you to know, plus a bonus twist they tried to erase from history. Number 1. From the moment the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour began pushing boundaries, CBS responded with force, but not publicly. Behind closed doors, the network hired a dedicated team of censors to dissect every script before it could reach the airwaves. Skits were combed line by line, not for quality, but for politics. Anything referencing Vietnam, the president, religion, or civil rights was immediately flagged. Jokes were rewritten. Segments were dropped. The writer's room became a battlefield between comedy and corporate fear. But the brothers pushed back week after week. What started as lighthearted satire quickly transformed into a televised tug-of-war over free speech. That resistance soon reached a breaking point. When a musical guest performed a song, CBS didn't dare let the public hear. Number 2, folk legend Pete Seeger had been blacklisted for years due to his activism and anti-war stance. But in a bold move, the Smothers Brothers invited him to return to primetime television, a move that hadn't happened since the McCarthy era. Seeger sang "Waist Deep in the Big Muddy," a powerful anti-war song criticizing blind obedience to military leadership. The message was clear, too clear. CBS panicked and pulled the performance before it ever aired. Public backlash was swift and loud. Thousands of viewers wrote in, demanding to know why Seeger had been censored again. Eventually, CBS allowed him back, this time uncut, but the damage was done. A line had been crossed. The next time the show challenged authority, it wouldn't be a song. It would be a sermon that sparked a full-scale cancellation. Number 3, comedian David Steinberg had a recurring bit that audiences loved and CBS hated: his satirical sermons. One of them, poking fun at the biblical story of Moses and the burning bush, was so controversial that CBS banned him from returning to the show. Tom Smothers didn't care. Ignoring direct orders, he invited Steinberg back to deliver another sermon, a subtle but sharp commentary on organized religion. CBS executives were furious. When the segment aired, it marked the last straw. Days later, CBS canceled the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, citing missed deadlines as the excuse. But everyone knew better. It wasn't about comedy, it was about control. And from that moment on, the fight would leave the stage and head straight to court. Number 4. In 1969, CBS abruptly canceled the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, just as the show was hitting its stride. Their excuse? Missed deadlines. But behind that official reason was a much deeper issue. The network was tired of the controversy. Tom and Dick Smothers didn't accept the cancellation quietly. They sued CBS for breach of contract, arguing the real reason they were pulled was because of their political content, not production delays. The court agreed. The brothers won the case, but the damage was already done. A groundbreaking show had been silenced not for failure, but for being too bold. Meanwhile, one of the show's most powerful moments had already been buried before it ever reached the public. Number 5. In 1968, legendary singer and activist Harry Belafonte recorded a moving performance for the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. He sang "Don't Stop the Carnival," while footage from the violent protests at the Democratic National Convention played behind him. The moment was raw, emotional, and honest. CBS wasn't having it. Fearing political backlash, the network cut the entire segment before it aired. It was one of the most blatant acts of censorship in the show's run. And it wasn't just about a song. It was about silencing protest on national television. The footage sat unaired. The message was muted. And just when you thought it couldn't get more explosive, one performance nearly blew the set apart. Hey, pretty into it so far? If you're enjoying the ride, feel free to hit like and subscribe. It helps keep stories like this from getting lost, and lets us keep digging up the ones networks would rather forget. Because what's coming next? Let's just say, it's the kind of twist that never made it into the history books. Number 6. In a 1967 appearance, British rock band The Who closed out their set with a bang, literally. Drummer Keith Moon had packed his bass drum with explosives, far more than anyone expected. When the blast went off, it shook the entire studio. Pete Townshend's hair caught fire. Keith Moon's arm was injured, and the production crew was momentarily stunned. It wasn't just a rock and roll stunt, it was a genuine safety hazard that no one saw coming. The moment became one of the most chaotic in live television history, and a symbol of how unpredictable the show had become. But while the chaos was visible on stage, another storm had been brewing just out of sight, and it was deeply personal. Number 7. As tensions escalated, CBS began interfering in ways the audience never saw. Entire finished episodes were delayed for weeks, or never aired at all. Segments were quietly edited down, full musical performances vanished, and sometimes the brothers didn't even know what had been cut until the broadcast aired. It wasn't a conversation, it was erasure. Viewers would tune in expecting a promised guest or sketch, only to find it missing. The audience was confused, the creators were furious, and CBS said nothing. While the network played it safe, the personal cost behind the scenes was reaching a breaking point. Number 8. Off camera, the fight to keep the show alive was wearing them down. Tom Smothers became the face of the resistance, constantly pushing back against the censors, defending writers, and trying to protect the show's message. But it came at a price. The stress fractured his health, strained his relationship with CBS, and even began pulling at the bond with his brother Dick. Their comedic timing stayed sharp, but behind the smiles, the emotional toll was taking its grip. They were fighting for their show, but also for their identity, and some days it felt like the cost was too high. Even so, the people behind the curtain were already shaping the future of comedy in ways no one could have predicted. Number 9. The Smothers Brothers didn't just fight for themselves, they opened the door for others. Their writing staff included Steve Martin, Rob Reiner, and Bob Einstein, who would all go on to become comedy giants in their own right. At the time, they were young, untested, and hungry to take risks. On this show, they found a playground and a battlefield. Every joke had to be sharp. Every sketch could be cut. Every line was a gamble. But what came out of that environment was electric. Satire got smarter, comedy got braver, and television was never the same again. What came next was quieter, but no less shocking. The network didn't just cancel the show, it tried to erase its legacy entirely. Number 10. When the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour was pulled off the air, CBS didn't just cancel it, they tried to pretend it never mattered. In official network retrospectives, the show was barely mentioned. Its influence on comedy, music, and politics was downplayed. Writers and producers who worked on it were rarely credited for the revolution they helped ignite. The story faded from TV history textbooks, replaced by safer narratives. The boldest voices of that era had been cut and then quietly erased. It wasn't until decades later, through documentaries, interviews, and memoirs, that the full impact of the show finally resurfaced. But long after the lights dimmed, one moment proved the soul of the show had never left. Bonus fact. In 2008, nearly 4 decades after CBS fired them, Tom Smothers received an Emmy for his work on the show's writing team. It was an emotional moment, quiet, humble, and heavy with history. Standing on stage, Tom accepted the award with grace, but also with the truth.
Thank you for all the great writing that got me fired. And
it's really nice to be here to receive this. It's been a long journey to this moment. The recognition came late, but it mattered. It wasn't just for a script, it was for the battles fought, the voices uplifted, and the risks taken on a stage that refused to stay silent. The Smothers Brothers lost their show, but in the end, they won something bigger. The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour may have been pulled from the air, but its message kept moving through comedy, through courage, and through the artists it helped inspire. If this story sparked something in you, feel free to give it a like, drop a comment below, and subscribe for more untold stories from the wild side of television history. As Tom Smothers once said, "Red, white, and blue are the colors of freedom, until they're used to blindfold you."